Hi, welcome back to the channel. Also, welcome to all the new subscribers and thanks for all your comments. It's just great to see how our little pristine community is slowly growing and I'm just grateful for that. Thank you. So today we will look at The Initiates of the Flame, a book by Manly Palmer Hall. Manly Palmer Hall was a Canadian-born author and mystic, and he was renowned for his scholarship in the fields of religion, mythology, mysticism, and the occult. His magnum opus, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, from 1928, is often celebrated as one of the most comprehensive compendiums of ancient symbols and esoteric traditions. But since that's too big and too hard to discuss, I'll turn to a smaller volume, The Initiates of the Flame, which was first published in 1922 and is nonetheless very informative. The work is structured as a series of essays, each sort of delving into different symbolic aspects and ancient mysteries. Hall's objective was not merely to catalogue these symbols, but to reveal the underlying spiritual meaning that these symbols represent. Obviously, I can only scratch the surface of a mystical text like this in as short as a video as this one. So I am not going to cover all the chapters in this book, but I will attempt to cover the main themes and supply a couple of quotes as well. As with all mystical scriptures, this cannot replace the experience of reading the book yourself, but it can be a starting point. In the introduction, Hall lays the groundwork for understanding the concept of the flame as a metaphor for enlightenment, wisdom, and the divine spark within all beings. Throughout time, there have always been enlightened individuals or keepers of the flame who dedicated their lives to preserving and to also passing on the wisdom they themselves had attained. Hall names some of these initiates that you probably are familiar with: Orpheus, Hermes Trismegistus, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, Zoroaster, Confucius, Odin, and Moses. He is quite clear about the fact that all these individuals ultimately served the same purpose. Hall also correlates the ascent and demise of cultures to their ability to hold the flame at any given point in time. He also clarifies our place in the world respective to the source of the flame, which he calls God. Personally, I would prefer the term source consciousness, as the term God is loaded with faulty concepts. So maybe try to replace the term God with source consciousness when reading these quotes. They might then become more accessible to you. The foreword also contains a just wonderful passage that just about puts this earthly experience in perspective. I found the quote quite redeeming. Hall's discussion on the sacred fire serves as a metaphor for the transformative power of knowledge and the spiritual awakening. By examining the role of fire across different traditions, he underscores the universality of the quest for enlightenment. The fire upon the altar represents the aspirant's inner light, guiding them through the darkness of ignorance towards a higher state of consciousness. This chapter sets the foundational tone for the book, emphasizing the interconnectedness of spiritual traditions through the shared symbolism of the flame. Hall differentiates two pathways of wisdom teachings. One embodies the doctrines of fire and one of water. The path of water designates those individuals who follow the path of faith of the heart. The path of fire is reserved for those who follow the path of mind and action. The city of Shamballa, also known as Shangri-La, is a mythical kingdom hidden somewhere in Inner Asia. It is often mentioned in various ancient texts, including Buddhist and Hindu traditions, as a place of peace and enlightenment. In more Western interpretations, Shambhala is portrayed as a utopian paradise hidden in the valleys of the Himalayas, often referred to as Shangri-La. It has become synonymous with any earthly paradise, but particularly a mythical Himalayan utopia, a permanently happy land isolated from the outside world. Hall explores the concept of Shambhala not just as a physical location, but as a metaphysical realm that can be accessed through spiritual maturity and enlightenment. First, he introduces the concept of the sacred city, which is known in many traditions and was referred to as Valhalla, Mount Olympus, Mount Salvart, Meru, or Mount Sinai. To mystics, the journey to Shambhala symbolizes the rising of the consciousness of the seeker as it passes upward through the centers and nerves of the body. When consciousness rises up the spine in the adept, it passes through the body's 7 energetic centers, known as the chakras. When that energy reaches the brain, the heart of the lotus, the mythical city of Shambhala manifests itself to the seeker. In order to reach this state of mind, the seeker must first open the proverbial lotus within himself, which he does by purifying and attuning himself to higher principles. In this chapter, Hall navigates the symbolic and literal interpretations of alchemy, presenting it as both a physical pursuit of transforming base metals into gold and a spiritual endeavor to refine the human soul. The alchemist is both a scientist and a mystic engaged in the quest for the philosopher's stone, which symbolizes ultimate knowledge and enlightenment. Hall's exploration of alchemy as a spiritual practice highlights the importance of inner transformation. The alchemical process is presented as a journey of initiation, where the practitioner undergoes various stages of purification and rebirth. The story of the Egyptian priest king, laid out in this chapter, serves as a vivid example of the rise and fall of civilizations and of the development of wisdom from the exoteric to the esoteric over time. Hall refers to the Great White Brotherhood guiding the Egyptian priest king. The concept of a secret organization of enlightened mystics guiding the spiritual development of the human race was pioneered in the late 18th century. This group of ascended masters is said to spread spiritual knowledge to worthy humans who thereby teach others. So long as those designated leaders are able to hold and represent this knowledge, the civilization would thrive. As soon as selfishness and egotism would set in, the civilization would fall and subsequently perish. Interestingly, Hall says that those former priest kings still walk the earth today. They have turned into ordinary people. Not any ordinary person, but one that still upholds the law. So really we can regard this as movement from outer or exoteric spirituality to inner or esoteric spirituality in the individual. You should read Manly Hall's texts not just in their literal sense. There are layers to this information. Depending on your own state of development, you will read his books on various different levels, so to speak. In this chapter, Hall explores the esoteric significance of the Ark of the Covenant as described in the Hebrew Bible. Hall claims that the Ark was not merely a physical artifact, but a symbolic vessel containing divine laws and energies. Hall interprets the Ark's construction, materials, and the rituals associated with it as coded messages about the nature of the divine and the path to spiritual realization. This chapter connects the Ark to the broader themes of the book, such as the search for sacred knowledge and the role of symbols in unveiling spiritual truths. The Ark, as described by Hall, serves as a metaphor for the container of divine essence within each individual, awaiting discovery and realization through the process of initiation. This chapter encapsulates the book's message about the universality of the spiritual quest, illustrating how diverse symbols and stories from various traditions point toward a common understanding of the divine and the journey of the soul towards enlightenment. The Initiate of the Flame is dense with symbolic narratives and allegories, drawing from a rich palette of ancient myths, religious rituals, and mystical philosophies. Several key themes and concepts that are not only central to understanding Hall's work, but also pivotal in the broader study of mysticism and spiritual initiation are being introduced. Symbols are the language of the mystics. Hall demonstrates that they are conveyors of esoteric knowledge, designed to communicate truths that transcend the limitation of spoken or written language. Each symbol discussed in the book is a multi-layered repository of meaning, offering insight into cosmic principles, spiritual law, and the human condition. Similarly, the process of alchemy is rich with symbolic meaning, representing the inner work necessary for spiritual awakening and the integration of dualities such as the material and the spiritual, the masculine and the feminine. The book serves as a bridge between the ancient and the modern, the seen and the unseen. Hall's ability to synthesize complex spiritual concepts and symbolism from a multitude of traditions into a cohesive and accessible narrative has made this work an invaluable resource. I hope I was able to spark your interest for reading the book yourself. As always, you can find a bunch of interesting links to related materials in the description box below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.